Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here today, especially with these 2 amazing people that I'll introduce in a minute or 2. But based on the title of this show, you might be expecting us to be talking about various sexual positions in the ancient art of Tantra. And if you've been watching my show for a while, you probably know that we're going to go a little bit deeper than that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we will definitely get into the core of what their work is about because it's fascinating. So one of the things that I teach repeatedly is why we've become so disconnected from ourselves. What is that really about? Why have we stopped being authentic? Why have we stopped really expressing our soul purpose, etc.? That's really a core in what I teach. So when I found these 2 amazing people, did I say amazing already? Found these 2 amazing people, I just thought this would be such a perfect match for what my show is about. And it's certainly a different direction that I've gone. So let me introduce Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental Weaver, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them before I even let them open their mouths. So over the past decade, these 2 people have assisted over 10,000 couples, that's amazing, and singles rekindle and expand their intimate and love life, along with helping them rediscover their innate energies. So it's not just about sex. Because that energy is our fundamental life force, and that's what they're trying to get people to get back in touch with. And again, something that we've lost along the way, and we can rekindle that and with their help. So in 2001, they founded Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago, which opens doors to wholeness within. And if there's wholeness within, you can achieve wholeness in relationships. They coined this evolved state, which I just love, as sexual enlightenment. And their mission is to heal, transform, and consciously create fulfillment in life and in relationships. They are authors of a book called Sexual Enlightenment, which is a guide for singles as well as couples and business people and whoever to bring lasting fulfillment into their lives, relationships, and work. And I was reading, I didn't have a chance to read the whole book, unfortunately, but I read several chapters. But what I love most about the book is your preface, which is to the conscious evolving of humanity. Wow, that's just perfect. And what they talk about in this book is leading edge principles and inspiring practices to access innate creative energy, listen to the wisdom of your heart, and connect with the power of the conscious mind. And it's kind of like a roadmap that will alter and enlighten the way you look at sexual energy, love, and your conscious self. So enough about all that. Let's talk. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Royce. Delightful.
Oh, thank you. So I just have to start by saying that I did read the chapter that talks about your history, your bios, and I just thought it was so fascinating how different your upbringing was. And how did that, tell us a little bit about that, and how did that play into what you're doing now?
Okay, well, I'll start. Yeah, great. Thanks for having us on your platform, Royce. Freddy Zental here. Well, I was really fortunate to have a father who was a really evolved psychiatrist. And I was first introduced to a lot of the practices that we teach when I was 13, living in Hawaii, going through my puberty, spending a lot of time in the shower. And my father, yeah, he took pity on me and gave me a book to read on how to integrate meditation and sex practices. And that was my first introduction to a lot of what we do now. And what's so really unique, because many people used to come to our workshops, guys, particularly, Tantra, the sexy yoga, and I'm going to be better lover. And yes, what we teach and share with people as tools and practices will inform your lovemaking. Yet what happens when we bring consciousness to the sexual, the kernel of that energy, creativity and pleasure, starts showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex in the simple process of living. So, well, anyway, I was introduced to these practices at 13. I had this idea to go on to college on athletic scholarship, but I didn't believe I could do it. And the practices assisted me in shifting my belief at a very deep level, subconscious level. And I did go on to college in athletics. And after college, I kept doing these practices and going to workshops and reading books and applying these principles to my personal relationships. I was in the software business for a long time in San Francisco. After about 15 years, it was just a job. And knowing what I knew about my own inspiration and engagement in life, something was missing. Company hired me, moved me to Chicago, and that was 23 years ago. I was single, online, looking for Shakti, met Elsbeth, and the rest is what we've been doing for the last 23 years. So
Wow. That is so amazing. I keep thinking of a 13-year-old boy being given this information. And can you imagine if the rest of the pubescent boys knew this? It would just be amazing.
It shifts everything. I mean, because it's something innate for all of us, and it's not teaching them anything new when people come to our work. It's remembering what we've forgotten.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's what I tell people too about my work, that, you already know this. It's just reawakening it in you. So that's very awesome. So tell us about the the polar opposite experience that you had, Elsbeth.
I'm the yin to the yang.
Yes, there you go.
So, yes, I wish I would have had a dad who would have given me a book on sex consciousness when I was 13 years old. Far from it. As you can tell from my accent, I was born and raised in Germany and came to the United States in my late 20s to do postgraduate work in music. And from there, a few years later, I got my doctorate and then moved into management consulting. And my upbringing, I'm one of 10 children and with a very strict dad. And so when I hit puberty and got interested in all matters of the sexual, my parents were not pleased. So there was a lot of tension and fighting. And I mean, I often did what I wanted to do anyway, but there was also a lot of suffering around that. So, however, I kept going. And after the doctorate, becoming a management consultant, that was in the 90s. And I had gotten quite good at consulting, yet I really felt despaired in terms of intimate relationship. I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while that was exciting, most of the time I was alone. And I could see at that time the trajectory. If I was not going to change that pattern around unavailability, I would end up, without lasting intimacy and love in my life, before I leave this planet, nothing would change. And that was the moment when I decided that I needed to do something and went to my first Tantra workshop. I had known about Tantra and had read books, but I never had deeply engaged myself, delved into the practice as a discipline. And so that was eye-opening. It was opening of every facet of my being, my body, my heart, my mind. And what I got to tap into was through one of the rituals that is dedicated to the woman. I connected, or what came up like in a nanosecond was an experience as an 18-year-old. Was deeply in love with my first boyfriend, and we had spent a beautiful time for a couple of years, and then he started to have intercourse, to ask me. And while I was not ready, I said yes. It was freakingly painful. It was so painful that I had to go to the gynecologist. The bill from the gynecologist went to my house. My dad opened it. All hell broke loose. He called me a whore. The boyfriend left the relationship a few weeks later. And there I was all alone, no soul to turn to. And that was a moment when I made a decision. You know, this kind of nanosecond decisions that we make to cope with something which may feel overwhelming. For me, it was, see, Elsbeth, men are not there for you when you need them. And while that was at that time so, this trailed me into my young adulthood, and no wonder that I attracted an availability.
Yeah.
Because that was further proof of, see, men are not there for you. It's like we are actually creating the very thing we don't want from a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And through the tantric practice, the tantric healing, where we tap further into our subconscious, onto the cellular level of our being, instead of just accessing ourselves from the conscious mind. And that really opened up. So for me, so that I could clear that distrust, that men are not there for me, into trusting myself, trusting men in general. And then 6 months later, Freddy Zental came into my life, and I'm sure I would not have recognized him as a potential partner if I hadn't done that clearing work. He was available. If I had not been available with that pattern, would not have been a match. So I'm just very, very happy about what opened up.
Me too.
That's so sweet. You guys are great. So you say that Tantra as a practice helped get you in touch with that subconscious stuff going on. How does that happen? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, there is a particular ritual that we teach that really assists one through the distinctions that we, train them through a 3-day workshop, in how to be in what happens in the altered state of the sexual, right? Whether we're doing consciousness work or not, when we're in our sexual energy with ourselves or with another, we're more loving, open, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed, more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. Now with the distinctions as a ritual where we have an intention, we get in that altered, intimate vulnerability of the sexual, that altered state, we are more receptive to what we don't see running in the background energetically, a story, a belief, at a very deep subconscious level. So we're able to really start to get some distance, I call it, a little as a curious witness of ourselves. And then we can really, in our other life, when we're not in our sexual practice, be more attentive to the frequency of what it is we want to create and the antithesis of what we've been creating.
Yeah. So, all of us hold memory in our body. We have this wonderful nervous system that is so beautifully equipped to feel pleasure, of course, also feel pain. And that nervous system has a memory, so to speak, which is not intellectually analyzed. So, just you always mention this example of the dog. I want to have a dog, but
Oh, right. Yeah. So someone who, was bitten by a dog at 5 years old, and it was a traumatic experience. And they remember that at a very neurosynaptic, deep level. But they're 30 years old now, and they want to get a dog, and they really believe they want to get a dog, but they never seem to get to the pound to get one. And so there's something that is still in the background running as a belief that it's not safe, or something's keeping them from doing what they say they most deeply want to do.
Yeah.
what I want to expand into, it's not only a belief, it's that this belief actually lives in the body as a memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that cannot be accessed through the conscious mind. We actually need to go there. And of course, we may not know where that particular place in the body hold the memory. In our work, given that, the sexual, the intimate, love is so, this is not, it's so primal and so early learned as an infant, as a child, and all of that is remembered. And that is what gets accessed through the tantric practice, through the tantric healing rituals. And that we also work, of course, with our sexual center, because we as women, we hold memory on the cellular wall of the yoni. Yoni is the sexual center of the woman. Anatomy. Anatomy. No, anyway, it's also called the vagina. I'm just stumbling over my own words here.
Anatomical.
So yes, that is what I was looking for. So that, which is a very delicate place. Lots of stuff happens there, including conceiving and carrying and, then giving birth to a child. It's a potent center. And it holds memory. And when we work consciously with that, because having sex doesn't mean we are conscious. Now, there's nothing wrong about just having sex, just like you said earlier, Rose, about the positions. The question is, where am I? Where is my awareness? What may I be able to discover about myself that may expand my capacity to feel, to express, and yes, also to clear old wounds, to clear that what may no longer work for us, particularly that what may be in the way of bringing in what we so much desire.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So as you were talking, I was thinking about chakras. Does Tantra talk about chakra energy? Is it connected somehow?
Yeah, that's one of the principal practices in tapping into chakras, whether you're familiar with them or not, are like energy centers in our body, familiar to anybody in a body, where the internal world relates to the external world. So the sex chakra, the second chakra, we can see something outside and feel it internally, or our throat chakra, where we are told to shut up and we feel we can't speak, and we feel that energy of that constriction in a particular area of our body, the fifth chakra, for instance. So in the tantric practices, in learning to activate and work with our subtle sexual energy and the highly aroused energy. And by the way, I saw one of the messages in your notes here, someone wrote about, as we get older, the sexual attention wanes. So once we can do these practices, we can start to tune into the subtlety of sexual energy, which is creativity and pleasure. It doesn't have to be a highly aroused, orgasmic, 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old type of experience, or 60 or 70 even. So once one learns these practices at an older age, even in their 90s, can tap into this subtle energy. So the chakras are a very important way of working with the sexual energy and imbuing our energy centers as it relates to our life with this energy, this creative life force. And also there are areas that we might be working on as an intention to get through, like the dog experience, or Elsbeth's experience of with the love experience. And we can start to open up and tap into where we're feeling some energy as a witness to it, to start to, again, flatten, get some distance, and move with grace, ease, and flow towards that thing we most deeply desire.
Yeah, the energy centers are essential in opening the channel. Because let's say, for me, when I was 18 years old, what I closed down was actually my heart, because it didn't feel safe to share my love to the fullest, which was connected also to my sexual self in this first beloved relationship. However, when that all was broken down through this, first intercourse experience and then the boyfriend leaving, was like, oh, when we cannot trust any longer, we close off the heart.
Mhm.
I had lots of sex afterwards, and I think I came from that, like getting love through sex, but that's not possible. So in the tantric practice, one of the reintegrations, and there are many more, but one of the key reintegration is the connection of the heart with the sex for the woman, and for the men, the reconnection of the sex with the heart. So, energetically speaking, for the men, it's all about bringing that wonderful testosterone sexual energy that is so powerful and so strong, to move that up into the heart. And there are very particular practices where people who work with us learn how to move both subtle and then also aroused energy for the man from the sexual center up into his heart center. For many women, it may be the other way around. Like for me, opening my heart anew and then sending my love energy into my yoni center or my sexual center. And so, back to your question with the chakras, they're an integral part. Because again, if I am in my energy center, my heart center constricted, life force energy that emanates from the base of the spine and moves up in a serpentine way to the top of the head and back down again will have a much more difficult time to move through the heart center if there is constriction. So if I want to come back into my flow and be fully alive, yes, we want to really be aware of each energy center and heal, clear whatever may be there that is up for us.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yes. As you're talking, again, I'm thinking, why did we lose this? And I know a lot of it has to do with religion and, the suppression of the sexual energy that some of us have experienced, maybe because of various religious practices or teachings. Well, how did we lose this ability that just seems so innate for us as humans? What happened?
Well, the very question why
Yeah.
put this in the left analytical brain? So that we have developed, as these big brain thinking Homo sapiens that are aware of our own existence, and the mind, we can fly the moon. I mean, my God, why would we stop thinking? So, so to really start to develop what we call this witness state of mind, where we can watch the story and the narrative to move towards what we deeply desire. Not see, because we all look into the world from this clay that we're molded from through all the experiences and all the modeling and all the things we experience in our life. And that's the belief and the way we make sense of the world. Yet what the good news about that is that what connects us to this elegant design of a universe that goes on for ad infinitum, which is hard to even imagine, is our imagination, our capacity to dream and think of something we've never experienced before. Yet to do that, to create that beloved we've never had, or that life or that place we want to live, it requires being a curious witness of the clay and the way we look into the world to move with action steps towards what we most deeply desire. And these are some of the practices that assist in how to work with sexual energy to do that, because there's a lot of things you can do, but sexual energy is not one of them. It's new now, new and old. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And to your question, Royce, that over the millennia, just like today, we live in narratives, we live in beliefs. That is what shapes our reality. And the world religions, have been a key influence on our morality. What's good, what's bad, what's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also can actually see that has affected how men are being looked at in their sexual self, and how women, or the one who is in their feminine, is being considered. Male sexual energy has been lauded for millennia, playboy, harem, Casanova,
You're a
the
man when you first have sex and all of that.
right, the teenage boy comes home and gets a high five from his dad. Now you're a man. And the girl, I never would have gone home to my mother and told her about it. They found out, but because there's some, something around the feminine where once you had sex, then you may no longer be marriage material or no longer pure, or it's sinful. It's a very different way of, even in those two dimensions of masculine and feminine, or different interpretations we hold. And the thing is that when a woman may express herself fully sexually, she may be considered a whore.
Mhm.
Or in some parts of the world, a woman gets stoned to death when she has a child out of wedlock.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. So, but these are all interpretations of what's right and wrong. And that interferes with our life force energy that is sexual in nature.
One of the things we used to talk about when we first started our work 23 years ago was that people really came here for, what I was about doing this work was to create peace on earth, because we can teach these practices to nuns and priests. It's not about having sex. It's about, in a self-love meditation, sexual meditation, it's about tapping into where that energy leads us as a way of listening and being in our life inside of the sexual experience. It's so fundamental. I mean, it was creating life before we had language. And when we tap into it, we remember it, but we think it's something that we just stumbled upon, or that we aren't a part of that energy. And so when we listen to that energy intelligently, we can start to glean some way of being in our life, creative and pleasurable. Whenever that shows up, usually things are working. So how does that look when you're working with a parishioner, or when you're working with a child, or you're working with your neighbor, or you're working in your business world? That energy of being can lead you to the path of existence, creative existence, to expanding existence. So that's really what is intelligent about this energy.
Yeah. Well, that seems to me, when you said that, it seems that that's where we kind of got lost, when we decided that sex equals procreation and that's it. When it stopped becoming that pleasurable, enlightened experience for us. How sad that is. Yeah.
Well, it's being rediscovered, I mean, it's coming back for a lot of people, excuse me, in the form of pornography. Pornography is very available, and in a way it's leading in the right direction. Like for a lot of women, young women particularly, who didn't think they could do this position or do that sexually, are learning, and they can experiment online in a safe way without being hurt or taken advantage of or going to jail. But now it's kind of like, the thing is, when you think about sexual meditation, but that people are, at least it's out of the closet, so to speak, in terms of sex. You can just put up your phone and it's there. Now that it's like a kid who says, I want to just eat, desserts. Okay, so go eat as much dessert as you want. And now their stomach's sore and they're hurt. Now you can say, let's try some vegetables. Let's try some protein and some carbos and see what that's like. So sex, it's like, after they've done everything with it, it can be like, now you can meditate with it. So we're moving in the right direction, slowly rediscovering this thing.
Very slowly.
I'm hopeful. Yes, Elsbeth says, I hope. That's why I've been doing this for 23 years, and I feel the glass is still half full. So
yeah, wow. We need to take a bit of a break, and just to remind everybody, we are chatting today with Dr. Elsbeth Meuth and Freddy Zental Weaver. We're talking all about sexual enlightenment. They founded Tantra Nova Institute, and we'll talk more in just a couple minutes. Be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. So thrilled to be talking with you both today about sexual intimacy and what that really means. Just seems like there's so many misconceptions about all of that. Pardon the pun. Anyway, sorry, couldn't resist. I wanted to ask you, I talk a lot about soulmates and that particular type of connection that we are searching for on some level. How do you, that feeling of connecting with ourselves and then being able to connect with others on a soul level, how do you talk about that with what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I hold the notion that each of us comes into this life with a very particular lesson to be learned. And
Yes.
it's not that someone gave this lesson to us. No, it's in some sense we came here, chose that lesson to evolve further. And it's unique to each of us. So along the way, we, of course, encounter and attract people who can support us in this evolvement. Now, it often looks like it happens to me. I have come to that, no, nothing is happening to me. It is the frequency that I am that actually pulls it towards me.
Yes.
And so whatever is there for me to be learned, be it in the arena of love, be it in the arena of, what our purpose may be for being here, also in contributing to humankind, all of that then unfolds. And in that process, of course, we come across one person. Sometimes there may be two or three of deep loves in our life. And they come to us and are with us so that we can evolve, that we can clear whatever illusion, delusions, blindnesses we may have, depending on how willing we are, willing in the sense of, yes, I want to open up to it. Because, when I look back in my own life, for many years I lived with, this just happened to look, some sparkling thing came just up.
That was interesting. Where did that come from?
Oh,
How bizarre.
yeah, there is some spark happening here, Royce.
Yes, I guess so.
So that I felt subjected to a love relationship. Like the lover was doing it to me.
Mm-hmm.
To now where I am is that, no, my beloved is my teacher. The very way he is, the very where he may come to me that may deeply trigger me. And as long as something deeply triggers me, I am not healed of it. It's not the other. Because if I was, clear and healed, I just would say, oh, it's curious what he brings up,
Right.
or it's curious what he touches in me.
Mhm.
So I may not have erased what the, previous trigger was, but I don't have that charge on it anymore. So in that sense, I look at these soulmate relationships as an opportunity to go deeper in our primal love and consciousness self, because that is really what the work is about, to integrate and to come to wholeness in terms of our primal sexual, our love, emotional, and mental and spiritual or consciousness self.
Yeah, let me add to that too, that I think that relationships are an opportunity to see something about ourselves that we otherwise wouldn't see. If we approach our relationships as a transformational part of our life, then and in the process owning our own triggers, our upsets, we can begin to look at where we're looking into the world from. And maybe there's a request to be made or not. The opportunity again is to really learn to allow the other to be who they are and keep living your life within the relationship, because it's never like it was, it's never like it's going to be, it's like it is. Yet we're also so in our analytical mind, we're shifting and changing the moment. We're very rarely present to the moment. So that's our opportunity in this life.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying. In fact, that's what I teach, that a lot of times those intense, for lack of a better word, calling them soulmate relationships, those relationships are going to show us our deepest denial. They're going to awaken in us whatever it is we need to see about ourselves, rather than, oh, this person is here to fulfill me.
And I
Yeah.
only feel good when they do this, or I feel bad if they do that. Yeah, like
Right.
exactly. Yes, yes.
I
Yeah.
also have come more in my older age, by the way, the comment that was brought up by a listener, that we shift, when we grow older, the body changes, the hormones change, yes, all of it. I'm 74 years old, and I know through the tantric practice, through being connected with my energy, draw on the energy, because it's, as you earlier said, Royce, it's life force energy. Sexual energy and life force energy are the same energy, just shows up in different gradations, sometimes in a very subtle way and sometimes in a highly aroused way,
Yeah.
yet it's the same stream. And so that, growing older, what I have come to now is like that also love relationships are often ways of working through our archetypal beings, like that some of the experiences we have now in this lifetime may have preceded this lifetime,
Yes.
maybe, from previous lifetimes, however that may look, like a knowingness from before having shown up in this body, in this consciousness as I'm now. And looking at that, my way of looking at life has taken on a much bigger arch. It's not just being born and then leaving here, one day. Now it's like, oh, this is a passage where I get the opportunity to perhaps sufferings that may have been there or were there when in a previous lifetime around love, around relationship, So in that sense, the archetypal that then, oh, this is for me to open up into. And now I can use, at my age, I can use this wonderful creative life-giving energy to fuel my love, to fuel my consciousness, and then the possibility of transcending that earthly desire into consciousness, universal connection. And I can do this here in my lifetime. I don't have to die to do that.
Right. Yeah.
It's very exciting, actually.
Mhm.
Wow. That's the person that keeps making comments. I just want to say thank you, because that's exactly what was going on in my mind. She said, "Oh my goodness, beautiful." So thank you for that. So the question that comes to mind, and this is something that I've struggled with, not anymore, but I used to, so I'm sure that people that are watching this can relate to this. We're in our society, sex is still on some level very taboo. We can't really talk about it. You can't say to your partner, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "Would it be okay if we experience this together?" Communication about sex is so difficult. How do you deal with that? What techniques, or what do you tell people in terms of, let's just talk about it.
Mhm.
Let's be open.
Well, Royce, usually when people come to us, they've kind of researched us or they've gone through some other practices through therapy and so on. And this is sometimes their first stop or their last stop, but they kind of have an idea of there's something that's attractive to them about our offering. Um, and so when we are introducing the fundamentals of breathing, the meditative state of mind, watching your energy, and we're doing practices around that, they're starting to tap into an emotional awareness, and that's missing a lot of in the world. I mean, just look at what we rationalize as sanity is really insane in terms of wars and how we allow people to starve and things that are going on in the world that we could actually fix.
Yes, yes.
So when you think of sexual intelligence and what sex represents to us as humans in terms of new life, I mean, I can't think of anything more spiritual. We are still an evolving consciousness, and we see it everywhere, in terms of how we treat the planet, how we are politically, geopolitically, and emotionally. So this sexual piece and bringing awareness the way we're teaching is new and old, and it's available to anyone who's willing in a body to get what these practices can be for them and how they're living their life, listening to their life, being in their life.
Yeah. And in terms of practices, we never go right away to the sexual,
Because it's loaded.
because, right. And it also would be like nothing would change because consciousness hasn't changed yet. Unless I can become aware of myself in my sexual, emotional, and mental self, nothing new is going to open up because the nervous system just does what it got used to. And our sexual self, we got used to that very early on. For some, when they were infants or children or adolescents, and that is what the nervous system repeats automatically over and over again. So we always start out with what we call consciously cultivating emotional intimacy with self first and foremost. Because if I'm not intimately emotionally connected with myself, I cannot connect intimately emotionally with Freddy. It's not possible. So there are hard connection practices to just like to give an example, where we, like as a couple, as partners, connect on that level. That is where emotional intimacy, circulates. And we gaze into each other's left eye, and then we breathe together. We breathe in, and when we breathe out, we send our heart energy into our beloved's heart. And when we breathe in, we receive from our beloved's heart center through their hand in our heart center. So we have this circuit. We learn how to circulate energy, not only within, but also then with each other. Once the heart is further opened, which allows us to listen, to be open to oneself and to the other. Because, what you alluded to, Royce, why can't we talk about it? It has to do with that there is a lot of shame, fear, guilt, and embarrassment around this wonderful energy that can feel so blissful and so pleasurable, and so we want to flatten, we want to clear these emotions, these low frequency emotions of shame, fear, guilt, and embarrassment that, of course, only each of us can do within ourselves. Freddy cannot do it for me. However, Freddy can be a wonderful partner who can hold space for me if he has the capacity. It needs to be learned, it needs to be practiced, that I can connect with whatever I may be embarrassed about. When I know he's there for me, he doesn't judge me. He just holds me. He doesn't want anything from me, like for his own gratification. He can be there for me. And in this space, I can open up, I can let go. Ultimately, I can, surrender to myself, to my beloved. And that's a process. So we open the heart. And then when we go in the advanced level work, go to the sexual rituals, already that what it means to hold space has been cultivated.
Right.
All of that has to do with me opening up in trust has been opened up.
And the witness state of mind has been developed where one can watch what shows up when they get into the sexual energetic stories, remembering old experiences, and being able to then sort of sift through that and be able to work with the kernel of that energy, which is creative flow, Kundalini energy. When we talked about that last practice, many people will try that and they'll go, well, I'm thinking and I'm listening and I didn't feel anything, because they're thinking and the why and where is it? So what you do is you use your mind's focused attention on a location and sensation and intention to move it with your breath. Now you're using your conscious thinking to tune into energetic breath movement. And you can do that with sexual energy, and it becomes very visceral, being able to move orgasmic energy up to your heart or circulate it through with your partner. And that's a whole nother level of working with sexual aroused energy at a higher level or at a low level. And that playing in that area, of experience is like the Big Bang, because the French call it the little death. For guys, it's about 3 seconds, that orgasmic feeling. So imagine being able to play in that ether for like 45 minutes or longer with, muscle awareness, energetic awareness, breath awareness. You can start to circulate that orgasmic nectar. And that becomes another kind of experience with the eternal.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned that you work with, this can work for singles as well. It doesn't have to be as a couple. Explain how that works.
Yeah, just like I came to Tantra when I delved into the practice by myself. I was solo then, single. Freddy was not in my life yet. And I went to do the work to uncover what was in the way, that kept me from attracting available men into my life. And so it was really wonderful for me to work with a practice partner. The beauty of working with a practice partner who is there for doing their own work, his work, or for a woman to do her work. So it's not about picking someone up or about falling in love. No, it's about seeing something about myself that I couldn't see unless I have the opportunity to work in this dynamic, because certain things don't show up just when I'm with myself, while self-work is essential for what we are talking about here. Yet certain things show up only in the dynamic of two people, and the curious thing is that the body doesn't know when I work with a practice partner if that is a practice partner or a lover, an actual person, because that it's not just like I get triggered in the same places, no matter if I'm with a beloved or with a practice partner.
In our co-ed workshops, you work with partners. In our men's workshop or the women's workshop, it's all men or all women. The men learn over a 2-day workshop how to work with themselves in a sexual meditation. Now, there's no nudity in any of our workshops, so they learn all the fundamentals. They go through active and passive meditation practices and different experiences and they learn very in detail how to work with the sexual meditation as a homework practice between the first day and the second day.
So it's great that you brought that up, so that if you are single, then as a man, one way to start out is, going to the men's workshop now, which is for men who are single or in relationship, because it's really about the relationship with self. that is addressed there, as well as in my Awaken to Your Feminine Essence workshop for women. It is really connecting with the beloved within, so that I can listen more deeply to her, and then I can communicate, express, and share myself from a place of clarity of what I do want and what I may not want, instead of fumbling around. And then in the co-ed workshop, when you are single, you work with a practice partner. And again, we start out with emotional intimacy. There are no sexual practices in the Foundations workshop. A great way to ease into the work. That doesn't mean that in that workshop stuff around the sexual doesn't come up, because when we drop into intimacy, when we approach intimacy, it's so connected. Our heart and our body are so connected. Oh, your dog gives some commentary.
That's right.
She's attacking her squeaky toy right now. I think she
All
wants to
right.
get out.
She's having fun there. Good.
What are they talking about?
Yes. I don't know, but this energy, that's what we love about animals. They're like our spiritual guides,
Yes.
You throw a wallet on the floor, they don't care about the money. They just want to smell the leather,
Yeah. That's interesting, because one of the next people I'm going to interview is talking about dogs as spirit guides. So yes, there she is.
They remind us of the simplicity that we've forgotten, like children almost. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and then as a single person, of course, you come to a workshop with your own intentions. Everyone who comes to our work, be it the workshops, we also work privately with individuals, with couples, both online programs as well as then, here in Chicago for private retreats, depending on what's most suitable. So when you come as a single, you come with your own intention, and the intentions may be very different. For me, it was finding out what was in the way of me inviting an available love into my life, and in the process I discovered I was not available, although I looked very available, For others, it may be they want to connect more with the beloved within. And then some people come and say, I'm really curious about how I can learn to channel my creative sexual energy, not only throughout my body into my heart, but also how I could channel it into my projects.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that, because you'd mentioned that it can turn into actual creativity manifesting in a physical way as well.
Yeah. I want to say, I mentioned it earlier, once you bring consciousness to the sexual, the kernel of that energy, creativity and pleasure, starts showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex and simple process of living. In our book, we mentioned a book that was written by a guy named Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And his book, written in the 30s, was about teaching people to believe they could be rich. And one of the parts of his book, he says, lucky is the person who learns to use their sexual energy to create wealth. Now, he doesn't teach you how to do it. We do. Wealth or relationships or whatever else you want. So this information's been around forever, since we've been in our bodies, and so it's rediscovering what we've forgotten, because when you are in this energy, you can transmute it. So energy is one, right? It just starts out as just like Kundalini energy, like electrical energy, before you focus it to power light or a computer or a car. Sexual or energy is one. It manifests as anger, happiness, sadness. Sexual manifestation of energy is unique. It creates life, and it's pleasurable when it shows up. So we can learn to, in that aroused energy, transmute that sensation of pleasure and aliveness to our projects, as Elsbeth said, to our relationships, to whatever it is we are wanting to put energy into. So for the man, learning to separate ejaculation from orgasm and not have that ejaculatory reflex and then the refractory and the loss of energy, learning to circulate that energy and not have that refractory and the loss of energy, he can now use that energy for the next day, for a travel day, a work day, or whatever a presentation day, whatever he's doing. Or she can do the same thing as well. For men, it's really important because the ejaculation thing is just so grainly and somatically imprinted in us that nothing else we can do. We can only experience when we have the ejaculatory reflex and the orgasm together, whereas you can separate those two.
Right. Well, we're just about out of time. How do people reach you? How do they get your book? Where are you? Tell us.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So our website is tantranova.com, TANTRANOVA.com, Tantra Nova, like supernova. And there are, there on the homepage, you can scroll down to our book, Sexual Enlightenment, How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy. And it's available in audio as well as also hard copy. And then we also would like to share a gift with everyone who is listening today, which is the introduction to sexual meditation.
Wonderful.
What we have been talking about, there are distinctions and practices in that video class that you will receive that are the foundations for connecting and moving your subtle energy that then you can bring later on to aroused energy. But at first, we want to recalibrate the body and the nervous system in our awareness and how the nervous system reacts. And these practices are in that video class. So we thought it would be great after, having this conversation for you to go and bring some practices into your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm getting signal that we got to go, but thank you so much. This was so enlightening, and keep up the good work. And I hope to speak with you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Royce. Bye-bye.
Bye.